Hi, how are you? Have you ever thought what it takes to have a loving relationship for a long time, maybe for the rest of your life? I have given it a lot of thought and I have talked about it with my husband. That's mainly because we met when we were already adults and fell in love and soon realized that we want to live the rest of our lives together and we want to really make this work. And because we were adults, we had seen many relationships fall apart. And those couples that should have gotten a divorce years ago, and those who got the divorce and were both miserable after that. So those divorces were completely in vain. I'm sure you've seen those. But I'm not going to tell you like 5 things and when you do this then you'll be happy and your spouse will be happy. It doesn't work that way. It's not that simple. Life is complicated, always. But what I am going to tell you, you can think me and my husband as a guinea pigs of these things. And I think that we are doing just fine. The main thing is to treat your spouse as you like them to treat you. Now you may roll your eyes and say that that's from the Bible. Yeah, Bible has it too. I agree. But it talks about neighbors. I'm not talking about neighbors. I have a little bit of a different approach to this. I know that many people treat strangers better than they treat their spouses, and I think that's absurd. If you have chosen your spouse and gotten married, they should be your priority and the ones that you are most kind to, and not take them for granted, because they are not. Many people stay in your life, but you may end up another side of the divorce. And that's not a good place to be if you don't want it. But if you want your marriage to work, it requires mutual decision. So you have to sit down and talk and really ask yourself and ask each other, I am the one that you want to spend the rest of your life with. And are you the one that I want to spend the rest of my life with? And do you love each other? Like really? Because you cannot make it work on your own. It doesn't work that way. I know that many people have tried and been miserable. And I tried and ended up miserable. Because if the other one is not on board on this, then it's just one party making too much and one party just doing nothing. And you just end up being bitter and you end up in divorce in a good scenario. But where would I start? Of course, communication. Everybody knows that you should communicate. And also many people say that if you talk too much, you end up digging up trouble. But I don't think so. If there is something that's on your mind, not constantly, but then once in a while, wouldn't it be better to just say it out loud than to just try to hide it? Because skeletons don't like the closets. They always jump up sooner or later. And then your spouse will be surprised and ask that what else do you have done that you haven't told me? And that's not a good place to be. So that may be the first one. Be honest and talk about it. If you talk about it, then you get it out of the way. And then you can move on with your life with a peace. And the other kind of a thing about communication would be, how do you communicate? And of course, then you can ask yourself, how do I want him or her to talk to me? And that's simple. Of course, I want to wake up hearing that good morning, darling. So I want to say that back. And do not like mix it up with acting I'm not talking about acting. If you start to act like you are jolly, it doesn't work. You just end up being weird. And then your spouse will be like thinking, what is wrong? I'm in everyday communication, everyday talking. And it's easy, if you really think about it, that how you want to be spoken to, and speak them the same way. And there is another thing about communication that often falls wrong. Let's say that it's late in the afternoon and you're coming home from work. Boss was nasty, traffic was terrible, you didn't have time for lunch, so you're hungry. You come in, the other one says hello, you say Nobody likes that. And your spouse will be wondering, what's wrong, what have I done? Or then they snap back at you because you were unpolite and they feel defensive. But say how you feel. When you come in from the door, just say that, oh, I'm so tired. My boss was crappy and the traffic was terrible and I'm hungry because I skipped lunch. And oh, it's nice to see you. Nice to be home finally. That's a totally different thing. Say how you feel, not just act how you feel. Because it leads to all kind of misunderstandings. That's for sure. One example of this I may tell you about my life. I'm every once in a while a little bit sad. And when I'm sad, I don't talk much. Not at all, actually. And in the beginning, my husband was always very, awed when I got sad. Because he thought that I was angry. And there we were sitting at the couch. And I was silent and he was hostile. Because he thought that I was angry about something or not talking, just the strike. And then he started to talk to me, ask me very defensively about questions. And then there was a fight, of course, over nothing. But one day I started wondering that I'm sad. Why does he say that kind of things to me when I'm sad? And I realized that he doesn't know. And I asked him, I said, hey, I'm sad. Why are you saying like that? And he said that, I thought that you were angry. Of course, it was a little bit odd. And of course, he was a little bit surprised that how can you be just like that when you're sad and why didn't you say anything? Well, that's not my nature to say something that, oh my God, I'm sad, please be sorry for me. No. But after that, we didn't have a fight over that. Because when I stop talking, he assumes that I'm sad, not that I'm mad. And that's two totally different things. But that was just one example. I'm sure you know more. Part of the communication thing might be one thing that we did. Like I said, we were adults when we met each other. And we both have been in a long relationship before with the persons that we shouldn't have been in the first place. And we had stayed much longer than we should have. But there was a lot of this kind of getting used to things that apply to our previous spouses. So if I said something or looked or something like that, like my husband's previous wife, he would react a certain way because he assumed that I wanted the same as she did. Not because I said something, but something reminded, something triggered the memory of him. And same thing about me. When he said something, then I felt like my world is collapsing because I thought that, okay, this was too good to be true. And now this nightmare is rolling over me. But it wasn't. But we got to constant misunderstandings before we really realized this and started to talk. And we talked quite a lot about our previous relationships and how they had been and how did they treat us. And of course at the process there were many times when other one would like tell things seriously and thought that everything was okay, and the other one would say that that's totally absurd. No healthy person will ever expect that or do that or say that or lay that kind of responsibility to another person. And it was quite like good experience because we both felt more senseful after that. Like we are not the crazy ones. We never were. But of course you have to stop it. It's hard to start talking because there is this kind of a jealousy element. Even if we both knew that we didn't love our ex-spouses, or the other one didn't, of course, and would never go back to them, but there is some kind of odd jealousy feeling. But we got through it, and we talked, and then we decided not to talk if it's not like mandatory for some reason. And so we lay the sleeping dogs lie. But that was one thing that I think that is really, really important thing to talk about, because we get triggered very easily when it's someone we love that does or says something that hurts us, or we think they mean to hurt even if they don't. That's complicated, but you know what I mean. And then there is another thing of communication. We have all seen those couples, I'm sure you have too, that scream on each other on a street or shop or kindergarten like foyer, and they scream each other like awful things. They criticize each other's appearance or income level or what education, whatever. They say the most hurtful things, like really. But they don't understand that apology never like erases those kind of memories. That's not possible. And those are the kind of things that you must never say. And if you feel that you are hot-headed and say that kind of things easily, then take a time out. Make a pact when you are not fighting, that you can take a time out when you feel that you are losing control of your words. And go to a bathroom or something and grin to the mirror or jump up and down. Do anything to like break that cycle. And when you come back after 5 minutes, I bet you don't even remember what you are fighting about. Because fights come most often from nothing. Just somebody feels hurt or something like that, and then they become a fight or something that's not important. And then something similar with the fights are those who compete. That's something that I've noticed is a very bad thing for a couple. Do you like to lose? I don't. I'm a kind of a pig-headed person, and so is my husband. Neither of us likes to lose. So we don't compete. I don't want to compete with him even if I could win. Because there is no winners, there is only losers if you compete with your spouse. So compete for whoever you want, or compete together for the rest of the world. But don't compete with each other. That leads always to trouble, sooner or later, probably sooner. Well, that was for communication things, I think. That was quite much. This is a one-time sitting, so I don't even assume that I'm going to get everything on this. But I tell you what I can remember now, sitting here. But then relationships always got challenged by other people, by the world. One thing is the parents and in-laws. I'm sure you know a few stories of those. Apparently there are quite many in-laws and parents that think that a couple is not suitable for themselves. Other one is too good for each other. Of course, those parents are the horriblest. They think that their child is not good enough for anybody. But of course, there is another way around. But what do you do if you have that kind of parents? Well, you just have to think, what would you like your spouse to do if it was the other way around? Would you like them to stand up for you and say to their parents that that's enough? I'm not hearing any of it. You're hurting me when you're like trying to hurt my spouse. And that's not right. And if they do not like get the drift, then take a distance. Month or two will do fine. Year and they will get the message. And if they don't, then you're better off. Overall, you didn't choose your parents or your in-laws. You chose your spouse. And you want to live with your spouse for the rest of your life. Not with your parents and not with your in-laws. Or if you want to live with your parents and side up with them, then you must wonder, are you married with the right person, or are you married with the right pre-sex after all? That would be kind of horrible, wouldn't it? Ooh. But that's one thing. And then of course there is children. If one has children, then I have found that there is two possibilities. Some couples are even closer when they have a child. They really bond with each other, and it's their like secret project together, especially when they're small babies, because it's so like intuitive what you do. But some couples differ apart. Some I don't want to say men do this and women do that, but as in nature it is that it's man usually who takes a distance from her spouse when they have a baby. They want to leave that to the woman and don't even realize what they miss. And don't even realize how their spouse feels, because then you need all the security you can get, because you want to get the secure world for the baby. And that's not a choice, that's an instinct. And that applies for majority of people, majority of women. Otherwise, I don't want to say that men do this and women do that, because the more I talk with my husband, the more we have realized that there is more difference between men and women than there is between men and women. So there are plenty of very emotional men in the world, I know, and there are plenty of very cold women in the world, and vice versa. So it doesn't matter which spouse you are. You can still want to live a happy and loving relationship and want to build on that. And that's the most beautiful thing that there is. We started from the situation that we have a spouse that we love and we want to spend the rest of our lives with. But I promise that I make a dedicated video about what to think when you meet somebody. Are they the right for you? What are the green flags that are good flags, and what are the red that are not so good, and what are the black that I would tell you not to walk but to run. And of course in the other end of the spectrum, when it's time to get a divorce and end the relationship, when there is no hope. I've been there, I've seen how it is, and it's better to save your own life than to stay and be obedient to somebody else, be a doormat. That's all for now. I hope you have a great day. See you soon. Goodbye.